For the last year of his life, Sylvester Zottola knew someone was trying to kill him, but he had no idea his every move was being tracked and that the person responsible was a member of his own family.
He almost kind of looked like the guy that tried to shoot me in Locust Point. You follow me?
How a New York mob associate escaped 6 assassination attempts before being unalived by his own son. That sounds like the plot of a crazy movie, but this all really happened in the Bronx. Over more than a year, someone kept trying to erase a 71-year-old man tied to the Bonanno crime family. They beat him on the sidewalk, menaced him at gunpoint on the expressway, slashed his throat in his own house, tried to shoot him in front of his home, even went after his son. He survived every single time. And the person allegedly pushing all of this from behind the scenes wasn't a rival mob boss. It was the son he trusted, quietly setting him up to die in a McDonald's drive-thru for the family fortune. Sylvester zottola wasn't some random old guy who got caught in the wrong place at the wrong time. He was a Bronx businessman who had made millions over the years through a mix of residential real estate and gambling machines, Joker poker, and other video games, placed in social clubs, bars, and restaurants around New York City. Detectives and prosecutors say his world was worth up to about $40 million. He was known in his neighborhood of Locust Point as generous, almost grandfatherly, called the mayor by some locals. But behind the warm neighborhood reputation, law enforcement knew him as an associate of the Bonanno crime family, friendly with high-ranking mob figures, even if he wasn't officially made. Zottola had built a small empire and he kept it in the family. His son Salvatore helped with the gambling side, dealing with the machines. His other son, Anthony, helped run the real estate side, dealing with maintenance, tenants, and the company that handled their properties. On paper, it looked like a tight family operation, an older mob-connected businessman who turned years of street hustle into legitimate property, with his sons lined up to take everything over one day. Nobody on the outside could have guessed that one of those sons was already planning to cut everybody else out permanently. The campaign to kill Sally Daz started quietly. In early September 2017, 13 months before the murder, he was outside near his home when a young man walked up and asked about a job. It sounded normal until the kid suddenly punched him in the face, knocking him to the ground and breaking a rib. The assault was caught on home surveillance video. At the time, it looked like a random attack or maybe a warning. Nobody knew it was the opening move in a much bigger plan. 2 months later, in November 2017, 11 months before the murder, it escalated. While he was driving on or near the Throgs Neck Expressway, a masked man armed with a gun approached his car and menaced him at gunpoint. According to police records, someone basically tried to box him in and terrorize him right on the road. Somehow, he got away again. A few months after that, just 2 days after Christmas on December 27th, 10 months before the murder, 3 men broke into his home. They tied him up, demanded money, beat him, stabbed him, and slashed his throat before leaving him for dead. Neighbors heard his screams and called 911, and he barely survived after a stay in intensive care.
He was in ICU for a while. There was a question whether he was going to pull through.
For detectives, this was obviously not random anymore. Someone wanted this man gone and was willing to get brutal to make it happen. After the throat slashing, Sylvester went into hiding for a while. Only his inner circle knew where he was staying. His family was terrified, always looking over their shoulders, trying to figure out who had declared war on them. But by mid-2018, he started moving around more normally again. On June 12, 2018, 4 months before the murder, someone tried to finish the job right outside his home. A hooded man came up to him, pointed a pistol at his head, and tried to fire. The gun jammed.
The gun jams? Like the gun literally jams when it's put up to his head?
Right, so the gun jams.
Instead of freezing, Sylvester pulled his own gun and shot back. The whole thing was caught on home surveillance. He survived yet another attempt.
And what did you see?
I see a black guy with a hood on. He almost kind of looked like the guy that tried to shoot me in Locust Point. You follow me?
The people behind the plot still didn't stop.
He lived in fear for the last year of his life. There is no doubt about that.
You spoke with him?
Yes, I did.
What was your conversations like with him?
There was a lot of fear and frustration. I mean, he was genuinely terrified about what was happening and how that could impact his family.
A month later, on July 11th, 2018, 3 months before the murder, the violence shifted to his son. Salvatore was outside his home when a gunman casually walked up to him and opened fire from just a few feet away. Surveillance video shows him being shot and then rolling away down the street to avoid more bullets. He was hit but survived, ending up in the hospital like his father had before him. At this point, between the beatings, the expressway gun incident, the home invasion and throat slashing, the misfired execution attempt outside the house, and now the ambush on Salvatore, law enforcement would later say Sylvester had survived 6 assassination attempts in roughly a year. From the outside, it looked exactly like what you'd expect from mob beef. A man tied to a crime family and a gambling racket, getting hit over and over by unknown attackers. Detectives even put together a task force with the FBI to see if one of the 5 New York mafia families had put out a contract on him. That would have made sense. But as they kept digging, something didn't add up. The pattern of the attacks, the way his movements were being tracked so precisely, the way his family kept getting pulled into the crosshairs, it all pointed to somebody who knew his routines almost too well. Behind the scenes, according to federal prosecutors, his son Anthony Zottola had already made a decision. He wanted to control everything himself: the Joker poker machines, the multi-million-dollar real estate portfolio, the whole empire. Instead of waiting to inherit, they say he cut a deal with a Bloods gang leader named Bushon Shells Shelton. Shelton had connections to younger guys willing to do violent work for money. Together, according to court documents, they planned a murder-for-hire conspiracy, targeting not just Sylvester, but also Salvatore. Shelton then recruited others, including the man who would later pull the trigger at McDonald's, a shooter named Hyman Ross. This wasn't some emotional spur-of-the-moment thing. Prosecutors say they built a system to hunt him. They tracked his routines, watched his homes, and eventually placed a GPS tracking device on his car so they could see exactly where he went around the Bronx in real time. Detectives later found that tracker tucked up in the wheel well of his vehicle after the murder. When they analyzed the data, it showed that his movements before the drive-through shooting weren't random. Somebody was following him electronically, step by step. On October 4th, 2018, everything finally came together for them in the worst way for Sylvester Zottola. That afternoon, he drove to a McDonald's on Webster Avenue in the Bronx. It was something he did often, just stop for a cup of coffee. He pulled his Acura into the drive-through lane like any normal customer, rolled up to the window, and waited. At that same moment, according to the government, Ross was using the GPS tracker to follow his position. Surveillance cameras outside the restaurant and around the area captured parts of the setup. A McDonald's employee working the window would later tell 911, "We're just taking care of customers. Somebody just ran to the car and shot at him." As Sylvester sat waiting for his coffee, Ross walked up to the passenger side of the car and opened fire into the vehicle. Multiple shots. Employees ducked, customers panicked, and the drive-thru instantly turned into a crime scene.
And what happened there?
Some guy got shot in the parking lot.
When first responders arrived, they found the 71-year-old slumped in his seat, shot multiple times. After surviving a year of beatings, throat slashing, misfired guns, and ambushes, Sylvester Sally Daz Zottola died doing something completely routine, ordering coffee from his usual McDonald's. The hit at first looked exactly like the mob, a Bonanno associate unalived in broad daylight at a drive-thru after multiple earlier attempts. Everyone assumed this was a mob hit, but detectives didn't stop at that surface-level story. They started pulling phone records, grabbing surveillance from everywhere they could, tracing money, and digging into that GPS tracker's SIM card. Step by step, they built a digital trail that pointed not to some rival boss, but straight back into the Zottola family itself. The more they dug into Bushon Shelton's phone, the worse it looked for Anthony. Investigators found text messages showing that Anthony was feeding Shelton information, schedules, routines, access codes, and other details that only someone close to Sylvester would know. Shelton then passed those details down to the shooters. In late September 2018, just days before the McDonald's hit, Shelton hired Ross to be the triggerman. Then there were the texts from the day of the murder itself. According to the Department of Justice, after Ross shot Sylvester in the drive-thru, he contacted Shelton. Right after that, Shelton messaged Anthony.
There's one very significant message minutes after the murder where Anthony says to Shelton, It's my little man, B-Day. I'm taking him to his favorite place, McDonald's, then a movie, LOL. Thank you for being a great friend, my man.
4 minutes after his father was murdered, he's saying LOL.
The text that later shocked a lot of people was simple. Can we party today or tomorrow? Anthony replied, I have the cases of water in a day or so. When they searched Shelton's phone, investigators found a photograph of a cardboard box full of bottled water sitting next to more than $200,000 in banded cash. That's when cases of water stopped sounding like actual water and started looking like code for the payout. Eventually, federal prosecutors charged Anthony Zottola, Shelton, Ross, and several other co-conspirators in a murder-for-hire case centered on the McDonald's drive-through killing and the earlier attacks on Sylvester and Salvatore.
One thing I can say is I had a feeling you were coming. When, I don't know, but I can thank you that it was after Father's Day and it was after all my kids' birthdays.
The case went to trial in Brooklyn federal court and lasted about 6 weeks. Jurors watched the surveillance from the home invasion and throat slashing, the misfired gun outside the house, the ambush on Salvatore, and the aftermath at McDonald's. They saw the GPS data and the text messages. They heard how Anthony had helped manage the family's tens of millions of dollars empire and how prosecutors said he wanted it all to himself. Salvatore, the son who'd been shot outside his home but survived, took the stand. Reports say he became emotional as he described the ambush and the shock of learning that, according to the government, his own brother had plotted to have not only their father, but also him, killed. For the jury, it wasn't just about gang members or a mob associate anymore. It was about a family member setting up his own bloodline for death. In October 2022, the jury convicted Anthony Zottola and shooter Hyman Ross of murder-for-hire conspiracy, and firearms charges for the killing of Sylvester at the McDonald's drive-thru. A third man tried alongside them was acquitted. Months later, in April 2023, a judge sentenced Anthony to life in prison, plus additional years stacked on top, making it effectively impossible for him to ever get out. Ross received a mandatory life sentence as well. Shelton, who had already pleaded guilty, was sentenced to 37 years in prison for orchestrating the violence. If you like this video, leave a like and comment what state I should do next.